Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Department Number Two podcast. My name is Derek, and I'm here with Darryl. We've got a pretty cool episode here for you today. We're going to talk Shiloh. We got a really interesting guest, and I think you are really going to like it. So, Darryl, would you want to introduce our guest?
Yeah, I can sure try. To be blatantly honest with you, this is the first time we've ever really met and not truly meeting, of course, because we're doing this via Zoom tonight because we couldn't get our normal recording software to work properly. But kind of been following Sean for a bit via Facebook, and I've seen and heard his name bandied about with some different projects. That's probably what I'm most curious about. It's like, what's he working on that he can share with us, of course. But then I was warned or told nicely, I can't really remember which, at the Fort Donaldson Symposium, because we mentioned that we were trying to get this set up with Sean for some time. And I don't remember who told us, but somebody told us, "Oh my gosh, you're going to love Sean. He's great. He's just fantastic. Like, you're going to love this." Da, da, da. I'm like, well, I better, because I am paying top dollar for this Zoom broadcast right now, which that's total BS, of course. So it's, but just kind of following through Facebook and then I, of course, I had to go out and get like a book of his. I can't believe I did that. That was, you talk about pandering to somebody. But I certainly did that. And so I'm curious to see, like, I'm curious to learn, not really see. I'm curious to learn a little bit more about Sean and what he's working on, and if he's got some, like, some different takes or insights about one of Derek's favorite battles, Battle of Shiloh. It's one of
Yeah.
my I like Shiloh, but from the Army of the Ohio perspective.
Mhm.
But Derek, I know, is truly a fanatic. I was talking earlier. I said, "Oh, I have like 8 books on Shiloh," and I think Derek must have like 80 or something.
Yeah,
Exactly.
they're all in this little range right over here.
Yeah, right. I
Yes,
see him, man.
yeah. Right over Derek's shoulder, for those of you who can't see, which is all of you.
Yeah.
Yeah, Derek's got this whole gosh, there's a good 20 of them there, right? Yeah,
Oh, they're not. It's Fort
yeah.
Donaldson's in there too, and then it
Oh,
goes into
okay.
Shiloh. Yeah, I got them chronologically. Yeah.
I got to say, man, Derek, most of those books you have are to the left of my computer on this like rack.
Lord.
I just grab them. I'm just writing. I just go, all right, man. What is Larry
There
J?
you go.
Yeah,
Right there.
hell yeah.
Yeah, I love it. Well, Sean, let's jump in a little bit. I mean, for those who don't know who you are, tell us a little bit about yourself, what you feel it's safe for sharing, that it won't give you away to the local sheriff or anything, and then kind of go from there. I think talk about how you got interested in American military history, particularly the American Civil War, or the war between the states, or the War of the Rebellion, or whatever you'd like to call it today.
You ever there's this expression that the golden age of science fiction is when you're age 12. You ever heard that before?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I wonder about what that relates to with what you see when you're younger than that. So first encounter with the Civil War was watching the movie Glory on HBO, because my grandfather had HBO, because he just watched television all the time.
Yeah.
But of course that meant that also, to his credit, that meant he was really up and up on like a lot of movies. So a lot of movies before they got popular, I saw them as a kid because he would see them and be like, "Oh, I've seen this movie Labyrinth or Monster Squad." He's like, "This looks great," But anyways, so Glory's going to come on. He's like, "Hey, you kids will love this," And so my first encounter with the Civil War is seeing a guy's head get blown up at the Battle of Antietam.
First few minutes there.
Yeah, no, it appalled me, and I was also just fascinated because they're shooting each other in a way that I hadn't really seen in a movie yet. And it was really my first encounter with wait, this is like a real historical event. That I had some knowledge that there were things in the past, because I always wondered, like, what's that point in your life realize there was a past? And mine would have been like in the Name of the Rose with Christian Slater and Sean Connery, and I was like, oh, the Middle Ages, man, that looks weird. And then Jack the Ripper with the Michael Caine miniseries that scared me as a kid because Jack the Ripper's scary. But Glory really stood in my head that wasn't just that, but that people were interested in it, because then I mentioned it to my dad, and my dad hated Glory, thought it was terrible. He didn't actually like many movies, though, to be fair. Okay, like precious few movies.
Hard to please on that front.
What'd you say?
Hard to please on that front.
Yeah, no, he was in the 19th century literature. He was more about reading Dickens and Dostoevsky than he was about watching movies. But anyways, so he shows me this only book they had in the Civil War, which is the National Geographic book by Jordan. You ever seen this? Remember this book?
Yeah, I don't think I have.
Yeah, this National Geographic did this series of books in the 60s. One was called The Vikings, and
Mhm.
one just called The Civil War. And it's still one of the greatest image books ever seen.
Mhm.
Like, there are paintings in there I have seen nowhere else in no other books. And one of them was a painting of the CSS Alabama that I spent ages trying to track down. I wrote a whole Oregon Civil War blog post called My Hunt for the CSS Alabama, because it's a really impressive painting in there. So,
Mhm.
I mean, just one of the best Civil War picture collections I've ever seen. And I was immediately entranced. I would read over that book constantly, and so that began the interest in the Civil War, and it sustained from there. And some of that was, encountering people who had strong opinions about it,
Mhm.
and I mean, I know other wars people feel certain things about, of course. I mean, I've known people who are passionate about ancient history, for instance, but who is it called the Civil War or Felt War? I think it was Robert Penn Warren, I want to say. I think it was Robert Penn Warren who said the Civil War is the Felt War. I
Mhm.
think much less so right now. I think World War II pretty much dominates things as far as
Yeah.
that goes. But anyway, though, that got me interested in it, and I've pretty much stayed interested ever since I saw Glory.
Well, that's awesome. That's now I'm going to have to look up that National Geographic book. I'm very intrigued to see some of those paintings there.
Yeah, no,
So,
Robert Paul Jordan. I mean, of course, some of them are ones you've seen before, right? But there's
mhm.
there's a few there I can't even find images online of them.
Yeah,
They must be. Someone must have been in. Sorry, but some must have been in private collections. And
right.
I'm always impressed too. Like, remember the old Time Life books, the gray books.
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
love those. They're great,
Yeah,
great. And even those, I'll look at those and I'll be like, wow, they found that image.
yeah.
Like, they got stuff from the Confederate Museum here in New Orleans, which Confederate Museum stuff. I mean, it's in the Shiloh book I got published last year, but the
Mhm.
Confederate Museum here has great pictures, paintings, but you rarely run into them in books, actually.
Mhm.
You know?
Yeah, that's I've perused their website several times. And yeah, I mean, there's some awesome stuff on there that they have just published online. I can't imagine what they have offline.
Oh
Just
yeah, I'm pretty chummy with the staff. I've been in the back
Mhm.
area and seen some of the flags that are in
Oh
their
man,
storage. I mean, they've got so much in storage.
yeah, that
Yeah.
is so cool.
And
So,
just
what got you into writing?
Oh, and writing.
Mhm.
That one's harder to explain. I guess I like words. I know. I mean, I know it kind of sounds goofy, right? But like, you're like, oh, I'm gonna get into something artistic, and you're like, I can't play music well, I was with the curse there, but drawing, I'm really bad at that, and but I was always attracted to words, and almost no, I'm sorry, actually, no, not always. Actually, I was a kind of a slow reader at first. I got more attracted to them later on. My dad was really into reading, as I indicated. It would also have me recite poetry.
Oh,
So,
hmm, you're getting
yeah,
us.
the first book I read was a child's version of Moby Dick.
Mhm.
You know,
Wow.
oh no, come on, man. I walk around sometimes and lines from Moby Dick will come in like, was he goes like, towards the eye roll, the all destroying but unconquering whale. To the last I shall grapple with thee.
And first
I
one I
love it.
read was
Hey man,
Mouse.
remember that's what Khan says in Star Trek 2 as well. Right before he sets up the Genesis device, he goes, "To the last I shall grapple with thee." But that was a joke thing I saw online back in the early aughts. Somebody just put Star Trek 2, but instead of saying that, it just said Moby Dick with spaceships.
That's
Oh
awesome.
gosh. Hey, for our listeners, just real quick, Civil War by National Geographic, 1969, and you can get copies used right now on Amazon for like $4. So there you have it.
All right, there you go.
It's not that Amazon's giving us any money, but hey, this
Yeah,
public service announcement.
my old copy I still have it. It got pretty worn down, so I bought a really nice new fresh one to have as a reference, and I still peruse through whenever I'm looking for whenever I'm looking to find an interesting painting and things.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
so I'm just go perusing through there. Anyways,
Excellent. That is very
yeah.
cool. So
Oh,
okay.
also they got some really cool maps in there, by the way, too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I remember that. Once I pulled it up and saw the cover, I'm like, oh, I remember this. I must have owned it at one point. Same. I don't have it now, but doesn't mean I won't go spend $4 at Amazon and get one. Um, so what was your first book? Like, how did you get into this whole, like, I'm going to write a book? Well, decisioning about writing a book. I know Derek has gone through it. Now he's working on another. But you know, how's that decision process happen where you're like, you know what, I'm going to take a swing at a subject?
Um, I I was in a master's program and they wanted me to write a thesis, and I was going to write a thesis on the relationship between Governor Kimball Warren and Ulysses S. Grant in the Overland Campaign. And as I'm looking at it, I'm looking at the Battle of Petersburg and realizing, oh my God, there's like nothing on this book. Then I found out there was one book written by Thomas Howe, who I've met before, really, really nice guy. And he wrote it for H.E. Howard, who published a lot of stuff in Virginia.
Yeah.
And I decided to, I read that book, and then I did my own research, and then I wrote a thesis on it. And it just stayed there. I wasn't really going to do anything with it after that, And then I went to a PhD program, and then I left the PhD program for a variety of reasons. But the main one is that I knew that the job prospects were going south.
Yeah.
Because as my brother likes to joke, he's talking about where people are good at. And he's like, Sean's really good at knowing when something's about to go bad. Which I chalk up to my other fascination I had as a kid. Actually, before the Civil War, my big one was the Titanic. Sometimes I'm like, screw the Civil War. I'm like, I'll get a Titanic historian. Then I look at all the books written on that, and I go, maybe not.
My Titanic didn't go bad. It was, the iceberg, it was happy. I don't.
Well, I mean, look, the iceberg was just paying its own mind, just doing its own thing,
That's right.
Hey, one could do other sunken ships. Empress of Ireland's very fascinating, but anyway, I say fascinating, it's also terrifying. But anyways, when I went to the PhD program, I was doing different stuff. I wasn't doing another military history, and then I leave the program for a variety of reasons. But the main one is I knew the job market and others would not be good. And it was like early 2012. And I was like, you know what? Why don't I just turn this thesis into a book? And at that point, I had this rare opportunity where I had by that time they're digitized. Because when I first wrote it, there weren't many digitized books. So it's 2012. I'm looking at Google Books and you're like, oh my God, look at all this stuff they put up. And trust me, I did not have the means to do. Like I'm in awe of the kind of research like Wiley Sword did, and I'm like, wow, you can do this now. So I wrote it, worked on it, polished it, and then got off publication. And I want to be honest, guys, I planned on that just being it. Like I was going to publish this one. I was going to actually publish a book, say I published a book because I had this bucket list, And I was like, publish a book. And then I was like, I'll finish the book. And that's actually partially why the book has a chapter that explains the rest of the Petersburg campaign, which people understandably have been like, oh, that's extraneous. I'm like, I get what you're saying, but I wasn't writing it thinking I'm coming back to this. I was writing thinking like, this is my last word on the war and I'm out, guys. Let me do something else. And then I guess like I can't explain exactly why, but I started getting pulled back towards it, and then it's almost like I found my love of doing historical research and writing again. And I'd taken quite a pause when I left the PhD program. Not quite a pause, but there's a few years there where I didn't do anything, I mean, like nothing like that. I was like waiting tables and going to the local dive bar, which I still go to the local dive bar.
Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that.
Oh, well, I mean, I think, George Carlin said that one time. He was talking about like he kind of fell off in the late 70s, early 80s. And this interview where he said like a lot of people in America would see that as like, you're wasting your time. He's like, no, sometimes you just got to back out for a bit. Just got to back. And people might say like, oh, you're like wasting time. It's like, no. Sometimes you just need to go like, I need a year or two off, guys.
Yeah.
Like, even right now with Shiloh, we're talking about Shiloh. After I finished this Casemate book, I did take about an 8-month break. I mean, I still did a few things here and there, like research wise, but I was like, all right, I've read about Grant and Buell denigrating each other enough. I'm taking a break. So much petty sniping between those two,
Oh yeah. Oh my gosh.
I mean, there's much worse too. Like, like going through all the National Tribune stuff. One does get tired of Grant's veterans going, "We didn't need Buell on Monday," and I'm like, your letters you wrote at the time. Do not say that.
Yeah.
You can talk real big in 1890, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. The accounts with intermediacy, like, right after the fact, like from both of those armies, Ohio and Grant's force, they're like, the Army of the Ohio boys, yeah, we saved their butts. And Grant's boys are like, I'm glad they showed up.
Yeah, I have not found a single man. What's the word that it keeps coming up over and over again? Blucher. They keep saying Buell is Blucher.
I love that.
Yeah, all the time. It comes up all of the time to the point where I've stopped quoting it.
It just is that much.
I'm going to mention online where there's going to be a little part in one of the books I'm writing where I'm going to go like, I haven't seen somebody I've not seen any Civil War general compared to a Napoleonic general in one battle quite like this ever.
Yeah. The Blucher of Shiloh. It's
well, I think Buell did tell his troops to raise high the black flag, children. So I'm pretty sure that happened. So
God, you ever saw the Waterloo movie from like the 1970s?
Oh yeah.
The Russian one.
Actor playing Blucher. That was fantastic.
Oh, dude. Blucher's like a maniac in that movie. Like it sounds like he's commanding a Panzer division or something.
Yeah.
Although on that note though, you ever saw was it Sharp's Waterloo?
Yeah, I never saw that. No.
Look, it's really good except for the very end. The British win the battle and the Prussians show up and he goes like, well, we'll give them something to do finally. And I'm like, yeah. But remember this, Wellington was having a portrait done after the Battle of Waterloo. And the guy wanted to paint him with a watch in his hand. And Wellington said, no, they'll think I'm waiting for Blucher.
Man, I love that.
Yeah, there's a lot of parallels right there between Shiloh and Waterloo. That's interesting.
There are some. There are going to be some of the number of battles. Actually, I think if there's any Napoleonic battle this is most like, it's actually Marengo.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say Marengo.
Okay.
I called Shiloh. I mean, I think in something, I've actually called that before. I do have a paragraph written out where I compare it to Marengo.
That's cool. That bringing the Napoleonic audience there.
Well, yeah.
Oh, yeah. I love Napoleon, man.
Yeah. And there's going to be some interesting books coming forward from a mutual. I won't call him a mutual friend because that does definitely stretch it. But a guy that does a lot of stuff on Vicksburg is now kind of transitioning and doing some comparison contrast between Civil War battles and tactics and Napoleonic era battles and tactics. So I think that's going to be kind of an interesting series that's coming forth. Don't know how soon, but no, I think Derek, the end of this year, right?
I think that's what he said. We heard him talk at the Fort Donelson Symposium, and
we're being obscure. It was Tim Smith who.
Yeah, I mean that seems obvious, right?
Yeah, right.
I mean, he just wrote 5 volumes on Vicksburg.
Yeah. So of our 10 listeners, one of them might not have knew who we were talking about. So yeah. So that'll be an interesting series too. All right, so. You start with books in the East. I mean, because you've got several, right? Whether it's Petersburg, Crater, a couple other different things out there too, and those were done. If I have my sequence correct, those were done before you kind of got into the Western theater stuff. Is that accurate?
No, not exactly.
Backwards. Okay.
No, it's fine. It's that. Well, emerging Civil War books are essentially like they're the nature of them is they're essentially advanced introductory books.
Yes. Yes.
Packing a lot of images, a lot of maps. I love the format for them. They're fun to write.
Yeah.
And I wasn't going to do all the Petersburg books, but essentially nobody else wants to do them. And I've got some connections with Bryce Sutterow, and he's like, why don't you do them? And I'm like, all right, why not? Sure thing. I'll do 5 volumes. Okay. And, I mean, the Petersburg campaign does really fascinate me. And it's a very long campaign as well. Certain parts fascinate me more than others. And I got a co-author for the Crater, which I'm very happy about because that's the hardest book I've ever had to write or work on. I mean, any kind of any kind of warfare is, you read enough things, you run to the horror stories, you start realizing what you're writing about, but it's just so damn obvious in the Crater. I mean, it's easily one of the most hellish battles in the Civil War. There's just one particular part of the Battle of Petersburg in the evening of June 17th, when the Federals penetrate the Confederate lines, that leads to some really hard, barbaric fighting. And we're talking about, when it's over, bodies are literally stacked up in a small area. And numerous Union and Confederate veterans had said, worst fight of my life was there, or second worst. They'd say, like, a lot of them would say, that was the worst or the second worst I ever saw, was the night of June 17th at Petersburg. So no, I know Western theater actually is more my thing. I mean, I wrote about Nashville kind of on a whim. Yep. I was kind of like, why not? I've suddenly had some fascination with Nashville, but I've been writing about Shiloh right now since 2019. And partially that's because when it comes to research for it, I just keep doing it. Now and also I took a break in there as well. And the Casemate book took some time. I'm glad I did it, because it not only is essentially a primer to what the other books are going to be, but also look at these images. You know what I mean? This thing looks beautiful. Right. And it also is a good way to publish some images that really haven't been published anywhere else before, like image of Preston Pond that I found at Southeastern Louisiana University, and Walter Scott Statham, who's often called Winfield Scott Statham, but no, his name is Walter Scott. And I found his picture at Dartmouth.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah, so it's a chance to publish a few, and also a chance to publish like some images that are rarely seen. And I'm really, really big on the images. I mean, I have thousands of Civil War images. I just collect them everywhere I can, And for Shiloh, I actually just found an image of Lew Wallace's division on April 7th that I've never seen anywhere else, and I've got it. I'm going to put it in one of the books. I didn't get it in time for this one, but it will be for another one.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I can't wait to see that one.
Yeah, no. It's not the greatest image ever, but I'm still like, wow, this is Lew Wallace in Crescent Field on April 7th. I didn't really expect to see an image for this one,
And the caption says what? Fighting Lew Wallace?
No, it's like Lew Wallace, April 7th, Federal Right, and then you look at the terrain and you go, that's Crescent Field.
Yeah. Well, that is very cool.
That is really cool.
Also, it was fun. Also, it was really one of them was fun was going through all of the images of the review field charge on April 7th. So a big part in Shiloh is that William Carroll, who was for the New York Herald, is on Grant's staff. He's around Grant, runs and gets the first Shiloh report out. And the first Shiloh report, Carroll likes Grant. In fact, Carroll and Grant were the ones who spent the night together on April 6th. That's what Carroll claims, that he held Grant in his arms while he slept. And what happens is that Carroll gets off this report, which is really bad. I mean, it's vague. There's no mention of surprise. And at the Buell's barely there, but also at the very end. Oh, wait, phone went off. Forgot to turn off the ringer like a fool. No, you're good. All right, good. It's off. Okay. So what happens is Grant, he says at the end, led a charge that broke the Confederates and won the battle. And what he's referring to is that around 2 p.m.-ish, Grant leads an attack at Review Field. Now, I say leads the attack. He's not a damn fool. He's not going up ahead with his men on a horse alone to get killed, right? He orders the attack. He's with the attacking forces. The men say, no, go back. Go to the rear. We don't want you getting killed, right? They attack. They do drive back the Confederates, but the Confederate line's already collapsing. The Review Field charge, though, is one of the most depicted pieces of the Battle of Shiloh. There are at least 5 images I've seen of this attack. And all but there's 1 or 2 that are pretty good. Most of them are really bad. Like, one of them has Grant and his entire staff charging ahead of their men. The Confederates are charging in the field across at them, like it's like that awful version of Sterling and Braveheart. You know what I mean? Because medieval armies just run into each other. And I mean, there's this one sketch that's really good. It shows Grant to the back, the men moving ahead. There's this one color image you see sometimes. It really shows kind of the chaos of the battle. And then there's one of them, also the Union and Confederate forces that were on Review Field at the time are very thin. the really bad ones also show it like they're like some Greek phalanx worth of men, like it looks like the goddamn Battle of ISIS over Guatemala, But it's really good just going through those images. And I mean, as an aside on that one, you ever seen that picture of Sheridan at Five Forks where he's jumping his horse over the entrenchments?
Yes.
Yeah, it never happened. It's invented by Horace Porter. And at first I was like, okay, at first it seemed a little ludicrous, him jumping a horse over fortifications. Then I look into it. Sheridan never said he did that. No one ever said he did that at the battlefield until Sheridan was dead, and then Horace Porter wrote about it.
Death is a convenient time to elaborate. That is for sure.
One other one too, though. Before that as well, the images of Five Forks before that always show Sheridan leading a cavalry charge.
Mm-hmm.
There is no cavalry charge at Five Forks. Five Forks is image-wise the worst depicted major battle of the Civil War. Like, the best image is the Harper's Weekly, 1865. It shows Sheridan behind a line of infantry firing. You're like, that's what he did.
Yeah, that's his job.
He did to help turn the Confederate left,
Yeah.
But they get more fanciful and everything. And I love the Kurz and Allison one because I love Kurz and Allison prints, even though they're ludicrous. But maybe it's the ludicrous stuff and that's so fun, because all the soldiers are in their best uniforms. You're like, man, I didn't know the Confederates were this well dressed in 1865.
You never thought.
They look so good, They just look great. So regardless of that one being inaccurate, I think for the 5th volume, for the Petersburg book, I want the Kurz and Allison Five Forks print. I just love the way it looks. Oh, God. The Kurz and Allison, by the way, speaking of the Kurz and Allison Shiloh print is ridiculous, too. It shows the Union counterattacking on April 7th. They're counterattacking at Dill Branch. The Confederates are already there ready for them. And they're on opposite ends of Dill Branch. So it's like the Confederates are at Pittsburgh Landing and the Federals are at the Indian Mounds. And the gunboats are shelling in the back.
Yeah. I'm looking at it right now. Yeah, it's
yeah.
a little ridiculous.
That's the way it looks, though. Although I got to say, my favorite Kurz Allison might be Battle of Nashville, which also is inaccurate, but that one actually does show you a lot of the highlights of the battle. Confederates collapsing and retreating, USCT attacking. I also just love the way it looks, so I think they're fine as like representations of the battle, and also the Chancellorsville one's pretty cool too, with Stonewall Jackson getting hit in the arm,
And I've always thought it weird the way they portray the like Confederate flags on some of those.
Yeah. Like, because isn't it like it's like red and white in a way?
Yeah, it almost looks like just almost like a Dutch flag or something. Like
they do look unusual. I also, well, I say used to, I still do work on board games, not as much as I used to, but my favorite Kurz and Allison is the Missionary Ridge one. So I made sure to have that one featured on the scenario book. And I used to I had this big book that had that picture in there and I used to just stare at it all the time. Partially I was looking at it too, I'm like, wow, you guys can't defend a mountain, huh?
Not very well.
Well, I mean, you get misplacement, but let's be fair. The Army of Tennessee was not a defensive army. Think about it. These guys were more used to attacking. Perryville, Shiloh, Stones River, Chickamauga, Missionary Ridge. They're being given a mission. They're like, wait, last time we kind of did this was Tullahoma. That didn't work out too well.
Yeah, we're not used to this.
Yeah, they really aren't. They're not practicing defensive warfare. I think that plays a part.
Mm-hmm.
Very good.
So back to Shiloh. I've always, Shiloh has so many misconceptions.
Oh yeah,
and you see those online. I mean, just too much. So are there any new ones that you've discovered kind of as throughout your new research? Maybe something that people have traditionally misunderstood that you're going to be able to maybe correct or maybe just expand on something like that?
I think that one of the things I want to do is I'm going into some pretty intense tactical detail, which I think explains why certain things happen the way that they do. And one of them is also trying to figure out like sequencing. Like, for instance, there's long been an argument about when did the 15th and 16th Iowa go in at Jones Field? So I've essentially got it figured out. I know what happened. I'm 90% sure of when they went in and what happened.
Yeah.
I'm really happy about that passage, because when I was asking Tim Smith about it, and he's been great on this, getting me, because, some archives are better than others. And some of the ones I've had been like, hey, we'd like to have $300 and we'll get back to you in 4 months. Smith's like, okay, here you go, dude. I won't name any names in the archives, but you get my drift. But when I was asking about 15th to 16th Iowa, he's like, man, there's an entire file in Shiloh about that. So I had the Shiloh Park send it over to me, and they ain't kidding. There's an entire file. And a lot of that file is them trying to make a case for them going in when they did and doing this. And I've got the timing down for them, for one thing. I've also got the timing down for the sequence of brigades that attack Sherman's division. One of the other ones, too, is also decoding what happens in each individual certain points. So 2 that I would say is, one is there's a growing conception that maybe Buell wasn't as important. Or a lot of people seem to think that even today. I will dispel this completely.
Yeah.
Buell is decisive to winning Shiloh. Now, the problem that we run into is that, much like the veterans back then, there's an Army of Cumberland camp and Army of the Tennessee camp, and they sure love denigrating each other, don't they? Although my favorite one ever is when Sherman's men, doing the whole march to the Carolinas, when they're encountering the Army of the Potomac, they're like, yeah, we did all this. And the Army of the Potomac says, yeah, none of your battles were like what we went through, guys. And fair, right? I mean, the Army of the Tennessee did not go through anything comparable to the Wilderness in 1864, or 1863, really. Shiloh is their wilderness. The Army of the Potomac got that a lot,
Right.
Anyways, so I think the problem we run into a lot of scholarship is people choosing like sides. And I'm pretty hard on Grant with the preparations prior to Shiloh, but I also try to explain why they are. Like, why are they not entrenching? Well, I can tell you why. They have to drill. So you can't do both.
Yep.
By the way, what really helped cement this for me was working on Petersburg. Because starting especially August, but especially in September 1864, the Army of the Potomac spent the entire time entrenching and not drilling. So they go into a series of battles in 64 and even into 65 with men who have actually never fired their guns.
Yeah.
The result is small Confederate brigades routing Union divisions in some cases because the men just aren't trained. So the fact that, if you look at it, and then Grant and Sherman do say this, like, hey, it was either drill or entrench. I'm like, I get it, man, drill,
Yeah.
So there's other problems with them. That being said, was the shooting starts, Grant is at the front lines. He gives the orders to hold. He starts ordering around individual regiments. Grant is very unusual at Shiloh. And also, the image you always have of Grant, like in the simple uniform, the short beard. Man, Shiloh's got a long beard, and he's running around with epaulets and a sash. Like, it is not the Grant that we think of. He's not looking or acting what we think. That's because Grant knows what kind of trouble he's in.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that, and so with Grant, I'm a hard on certain things, and other things I'm very positive on. In the case of Buell, I really think this is his moment. Now, I have some critiques of Buell as a general at Shiloh. I don't think he did well coordinating between his divisions on April 7th. He was a little too much at the front in some cases. But at the same time, I mean, this is his moment. And I do not want to take that away from the guy, despite the fact that, hey, look, I know he's like a humorless, charmless man that nobody likes. But, come on, give the guy some credit, all right?
Yeah.
His troops cheered him lustily after Shiloh. They absolutely loved this guy.
Oh,
for
yeah.
bravery and leading from the front. And unfortunately for Buell, his inability to reciprocate that or acknowledge that outpouring of emotion leads to his downfall. So, which is unfortunate.
I would say in part, yeah, there's a political dimension. One thing that has been noted, though, is that the Army of the Ohio starts to split in the Kentucky campaign, and they're on the verge of becoming like an Army of the Potomac situation where you're going to have warring camps in the Army.
Yeah.
This is one of the things I love about Rosecrans is Rosecrans comes there and gets rid of that. That's one hell of an achievement. Rosecrans takes over an army that's divided and unites them at Stones River. So he reverses that trend. But what I'm saying is that those men who are at Shiloh, those are still the ones writing about him positively in the Kentucky campaign.
Mm-hmm.
It's the new soldiers who are like, I can't stand this man. And you're right. The fact that he can't reciprocate means he doesn't, they still admire him because of his courage, but they don't fully love him. And actually, when I did a little talk on Buell about a year ago, I pulled up his congratulatory order from Shiloh, and you can already see the seeds of his downfall in the congratulatory order. Because it's not a very warm message, and you're mentioning that about his men. Grant's men are cheering him.
Mm-hmm.
The number of Grant's men who write letters after Shiloh saying, we had no generalship till Buell arrived. Buell's the man. I'm like, wow, Buell is riding high after Shiloh. He's the hero of the hour. It's just not going to last for a whole lot of reasons. And one of them is Buell's own personal deficiencies.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
No doubt about it. But there's a whole political dimension there too. And then, he gets that stupid assignment to go to Chattanooga overland.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a reason nobody tries it again, and it wasn't his fault. That's his orders.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thanks, Mr. Halleck.
Actually, it's funny you say that. If there's one general I'd probably find I actually do hammer a lot, it's Halleck.
Yeah. And I think it's easy to do because it's just, the record speaks for itself. So I think it's just, yeah.
Yeah. Well, here's a fun one for you. I ran to a thing with McClellan, when McClellan said straight up, he said, Halleck is the dumbest general I ever met in my life.
Strong words from Little Mac.
I know. Look, I know people hate on McClellan and stuff. I'm a little more positive, but he's got problems too. But think about this though. McClellan says, this is the dumbest general I ever met in my life. He said something like, I'd repeat basic concepts to him, and he stared at me blankly. And I'm like, I think it's just because he's not listening.
Yeah,
probably so. They take a while to process everything.
I don't know. I mean, Halleck's not dumb by any means. He's there's just so much stuff he does that is, I don't know. Oh God,
like socially awkward too.
Well, it's funny. He's socially awkward, but he's actually a master of army politics.
Oh yeah.
Because people think to be politically good, to be charismatic. Like, no, you can just be a networker and a manipulator. He's good at that.
He's a manipulator. I mean, his inability to give direct orders and try to set himself up in that position. If my subordinate fails, it's not going to look bad on me. That's very strong Halleck.
Oh yeah. Oh God. I mean, I had this one friend of mine. He's big on Fredericksburg, and you can make a case. The reason the Union loses Fredericksburg, Halleck is as guilty as Burnside.
Yeah.
Because he's like, I just didn't send the pontoon bridges. The orders are on my desk. It's like jaw-droppingly bad, Anyways.
Yeah. But going back to the march across North Alabama, it's that same situation. Buell is begging to stop this movement and to utilize the other rail line instead of the one he has to continue to repair because it's continually getting broken by raids and whatnot. And it's just like, yeah, the old brains, I think his old brains were in his old arse, but that's just.
Yeah. You remember the thing too, Halleck really hated seaborne operations. He favored things that were over land like that. And I don't want to misquote him, but I think by 1865, I think Sherman, who of course Sherman was friends with Halleck when the war started, he admired him. But I believe by and I'm talking even before what happens with the surrender negotiations at Bennett Place, I think Sherman already starts to look at Halleck and goes, maybe he's not as sharp as I thought. And you already see that with Grant, because remember when it came to the Richmond situation, Halleck wanted Grant to shift to north of Richmond and just invest the city slowly from the north. And Grant's like, that's ludicrous. So I'm like, yeah, you're right.
Yeah. Grant's like, I saw Corinth. Yeah. No, we're not.
Yeah. I saw what happened at Corinth. Exactly. He's like, hey, we'll do the Corinth campaign. Wasn't that cool, guys? Oh man.
Greatest campaign, overland campaign ever. So
yeah, wait. Here's one for you. Ambrose Bierce, who I love, like one of my favorite authors of all time. He called Corinth the capital of a swamp. The capital of a swamp.
Not today, ladies and gentlemen, in northern Mississippi. We love our listeners, all 10 of them from northern Mississippi. We appreciate you very much.
Well, it's not very swampy there anymore, is it?
Not as much. It is a little bit. Like, you still get like a lot of that cedar kind of,
Okay.
like, a little bit. It can definitely get wet, no doubt about it.
Oh man, I mean, read like what Sam Watkins. Remember what he writes about Corinth? I mean, he's like, this is the most dismal spot I've ever been to. It's the graveyard of the army. We left it happily. And then I'm sorry, I read all the stuff. Then I go to Corinth, get a slug burger and stuff, and I'm like, this seems fine to me, man. I mean,
yeah.
Pierce and Watkins are making me think this is gonna be like the Atchafalaya Basin, but worse.
No, we toured, Shiloh. It's been a few years now, Derek, but a lot of us stayed in Corinth. We went downtown, had a delightful meal at a wonderful restaurant, and we're sitting around the table, and the waitress comes up and says, "How everybody liked their meal?" This is a classic Tim Cooper for Derek, and Cooper's like, "I don't know. You haven't brought it out yet." Like, we are like a half an hour in, like, in eating, and it's just like, so maybe there is a swamp effect. I don't know.
I've got a Corinth story like that too, Darryl. Back when I was 18, I was in high school, and we were down in Corinth, and we went to, I don't remember what restaurant we went to, but someone in our group ordered soup, and he didn't get any silverware. And so he asked, can I have some silverware for my soup? The waitress brought back a fork. And he's like, I need a spoon, it's soup. And she looked at him like, oh, like, just, I remember that. I was like, what?
It wasn't chunky soup by Campbell's? I mean,
it wasn't. No, it was like tomato soup.
Okay. Come on, man. This smells like the beginning or the end of a shift.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, it does.
I mean, trust me. I like, oh yeah. I remember one time I went in and I had this really delicious hamburger and beer. And it was just, I was like, just blissful feeling in my head. And I'm like, wow, I really can't do anything right now. So I just sat in the back, and I was like, hey, and it was a slow period. So I was like, look, I'll just fold a bunch. I'll just roll a bunch of silverware for 30 minutes. All right, guys. Like, I'll let you know, and I'll let you know I can return to the land of the living.
Yeah. Oh, so one question I had is about the hornet's nest. So I know there are some people who like to praise Benjamin Prentice there.
Yeah.
People who don't like him at all for the hornet's nest. So what can you tell us about that? Maybe like what's the interpretation that you're coming up with here on that?
I'm going to link it with something else too, because Prentice, and even I did this, has been put in the same category as Grant and Sherman for ignoring warnings.
Mm-hmm.
I would not say I actually don't think it's exactly the same case with Prentice. Prentice is unsure of what's happening. Keeping in mind, he does not see as many Confederates in front of him as Sherman does. There's as many encounters, right? And Prentice does send out a patrol on April 5th, led by David Moore. Moore barely misses the Confederate army. He goes out and then he veers right. If he kept going straight, he would have hit him. Yeah. And Prentice would have found him on April 5th. And then after that, Prentice goes, well, I guess there's nothing out there. And Prentice keeps going back and forth. That's what I'm finding. Now Sherman is ignoring things, but by April 5th, he's going, well, I mean, something might be out there. We'll head out first thing in the morning.
What timing?
Hey, well, to be fair, too, Sherman's cavalry was getting switched out.
Oh.
They exchanged the 5th Ohio Cavalry, so I want to say, not the 11th. The 11th was over in Cerebral Field. I think it was the 4th Illinois Cavalry. Anyway, an Illinois Cavalry Regiment. Being switched out on April 5th. He doesn't have any cavalry to scout anyway. I mentioned 11th Cavalry. They were in Cerebral Field. They're supposed to be attached to Prentice, but the message never got to him. So Prentice couldn't send cavalry out because he didn't even know he had cavalry under his command.
Yeah. Wow.
There's shuffling units around this time as well, and that's adding to the confusion. So I bring that up because one of the things I think held against Prentice is that everybody's like, Peabody finds him. I'm like, yes, Peabody does. Powell comes back after one patrol and says, hey, there's guys out there. Peabody says, like, they won't surprise me. He sends out the full patrol. Prentice and Peabody did not like each other, and they were not communicating properly either. So when people say that Prentice ignored Peabody and was denigrating him, I think it's partially right, but also from what I can tell, I don't think I don't think he actually knew what Peabody was even doing. Like, Peabody sent a messenger to Prentice to be like, hey, I'm seeing a patrol out. The messenger never found Prentice. So when Prentice was angry at Peabody, he didn't know what was going on. He's like, what the hell are you doing?
Yeah.
So it's a lot of miscommunication with this too. So I think that
includes a lot there.
That hurts Prentice's reputation.
Mm-hmm.
Then he gets the Hornets' Nest, that position, known as the Sunken Road. I've only found one contemporary account that mentions the road, because I know some people have been like, there's no, I found one letter where a guy mentions they were in the Sunken Road from like right around the time.
Mm-hmm.
But that's it. So obviously this thing wasn't that impressive.
Right.
It was there, right? So the Sunken Road position, Prentice lines up there. He does well in that position, helping to drive off several unsupported brigade attacks.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, he surrenders, and he claims, like, okay, I saved the army. Did Prentice buy time for the army? Yes, most certainly. It took time to surround them, get them as prisoners, and everything else. That doesn't equate to you saved the army, though. And the thing is, for Prentice, is that he was a good public speaker.
Mm-hmm.
He actually, funny enough, stayed quiet after the war. He didn't talk much. And then something around the 1880s, 90s, he's talking all over the place. So he's helping boost the Hornets' Nest and his role in it. At the same time, as Tim Smith's pointed out, David Reed's the one in charge with the 12th Iowa. David Reed's the 12th. I think it's 12th Iowa, wasn't there? 14th Iowa. Anyway.
It was one of those Iowa regiments. Yeah.
Yeah. And think about this too. Iowa takes a big interest in Shiloh. The Iowa Monument's the big one there. So the state takes a big interest, but then add the fact of the paintings.
Yeah.
Right. And it isn't like Prentice or Iowa went to some of the artists who depicted the Hornet's Nest and said, you better depict the Hornet's Nest. They just did it. The Hornet's Nest drew interest not just because of Prentice or Reed. The veterans themselves for the Hornet's Nest kept talking about it. I think that also really helped. I think Prentice did a fine job. He proved to be a brave commander, and he found his division in a really bad position in the morning. And actually, I would say that his division, they got crumbled and destroyed, but they did get their licks in on some of those Confederate regiments. So this was not a pushover. And Prentice, I think, also keep in mind too that Whitelaw Reid's account of Shiloh is better than William Carroll's. But there's one big problem with Reid's account, is that he wasn't there on April 6th. He was with Lew Wallace. So you read his account of April 7th, excellent, great account. April 6th, he says Prentice was captured in his tent. Think about it for Prentice. He had to spend his whole life having people like, hey, weren't you captured like in your bed at Shiloh? And him having to like fight back against that. So some sympathy for Prentice boasting. He's had to deal with idiots coming up to him saying, hey man, I read the newspapers. It said you got captured at 8 a.m. I mean, I'd be pretty sensitive and boastful too,
Yeah, for sure.
and another. I want to add another thing. Something that helps boost the Hornet's Nest we don't talk about? The Confederates, because who gives it its name? Louisiana Regiment's charging it, but not just that. The 4th Louisiana Infantry. Somebody needs to write a regimental history of that. If they haven't already. We have so many sources for the 4th, because the 4th was made up of like the sons of planters. It's a party of elite, educated men. They write well. The letters in the country, they're well written, and they talked a lot about the Hornet's Nest. So, now the same can't be said for like Shaver's Brigade, which is Arkansas guys. I mean, we have some accounts from the men, but not really many. But we got a lot of accounts from Gibson's brigade, in particular the 4th Louisiana, because it's full of literate Confederates. I know how the 4th Louisiana's experience was at the Hornet's Nest pretty damn well.
Yeah.
So they also help boost it too. And remember, they're the ones who give it its name. That's too, And it sounds, I mean, come on, Hornet's Nest, right? That really catches.
That's very cool.
Yeah. Although the one that interests me most is Hell's Hollow, where
that's got a good name too.
Well, yeah, that's where William Wallace gets shot in the head, and Lynch's horse falls on him, and they're trying to run through the gauntlet of Confederates, and they're being fired at on all sides.
Mhm.
Last thing I mentioned, I think it really makes the Hornets' Nest special is how many battles in the Civil War did infantry pull off a double envelopment and capture a bunch of men like that? Not terribly
Yeah,
many.
it's not very awesome. No.
Yeah. The way the train was set up, the fact that Prentiss didn't know. That's something to keep in mind too. Prentiss said, yeah, we got a hold. Prentiss doesn't exactly know what's happening on the flanks. Because remember, Wallace talks to them, they decide to hold, then Wallace starts to retreat. Wallace died, so we don't have this side of the story. Hurlbut says he sent a messenger to Prentiss who was never seen again.
Yeah.
Maybe he did, maybe he didn't. Hurlbut could be a pretty shady character. I'm inclined to think that he did, though, on this case, because much like Buell, Shiloh is Hurlbut's finest hour as a man.
Yeah, I've always thought he did pretty well over there.
Yeah, no, and this is, I mean, like, you read about Hurlbut, I mean, an alcoholic who, arguably tortured Confederate prisoners. You know about the Teamster story?
No, I'm not sure about that one.
Oh, dude, like after the Battle of Corinth, it was like Hatchie's Bridge or something. A drunk Hurlbut comes up to a Teamster, picks a fight with him, and the Teamster just beats him down. like, I wrote a blog post to that. I'm like, Hurlbut, man, this is his moment. He's got one moment in life, and this is it. I mean, he had to flee Charleston because he was caught cheating cards. That's why he left when he was a young man.
Yeah, he's such an interesting person. Like he's got that shady background, like you said. But then here it's like he's a different person. It's like he's with it.
No, he's totally with it. He says, like, one of the officers comes up and goes, like, like, take more cover. And he says, well, us generals must take our chances with the boys. I'm paraphrasing. Mm-hmm. That's essentially what he says. Mm-hmm. So many Union officers talk about seeing him and just being inspired by him. Yeah. And keep it in mind, this is a guy who on April 4th was mocked by his own division. They laughed at him because he turned out the division when they had to fight at Chambers Field. Mm-hmm. A firefight between like the 5th Ohio Cavalry. It was like, Buckland's brigade, some of his men engaged Claiborne's brigade, some artillery and cavalry. And Hurlbut turns out the entire division. A messenger comes from Sherman saying, go back to camp. His men start laughing at him. I mean, and also he does kind of fumble the ball in his initial deployment at Shiloh, which leaves the 13th Ohio Battery. It's one of many reasons why that unit just vaporizes. Hurlbut's partially to blame. But once that battery's vaporized and he falls back, I mean, he is on point. He's also really good on April 7th as well. He actually teared up when he saw a few men he had. Yeah. Yeah, no. So there you go, guys. Like, maybe you too, if you're listening right now and you're like, man, I'm a really bad person, but maybe you too can have your Shiloh,
your moment.
That's right. That's right.
So speaking of, you just said Hurlbut's, the way he deployed his brigades there. I've always thought it interesting the way and I don't know if this was Lawman that did this or if Hurlbut ordered him to, but just the way that they're facing. It's almost like they're facing straight west, some of the regiments there before they finally, kind of bend backwards. Yeah. Well, is there any indication about why they were like that?
It's a bit hard to piece together.
Yeah.
And we have enough evidence to know that Hurlbut deployed those regiments that far forward at first. Mm-hmm. But a lot of reports, and even Hurlbut himself doesn't even mention it really, because I think he knew, like, oh God. But what Hurlbut's trying to do that doesn't work is he's trying to connect one flank with David Stewart's brigade. Mm-hmm. He does send a battery to support Stewart, but then the 13th Ohio is vaporized. I just love using the word vaporized, by the way. Mm-hmm. And then he had to recall the battery back, which means Stewart has no artillery, which is one of the leading reasons why Stewart's brigade gets routed from their camp. Mm-hmm. Lawman's brigade, if you look at the configuration, what they're doing is they're covering for Prentiss while he reforms the command. That's what I think they're really doing. Mm-hmm. He's trying to connect with Stewart and protect Prentiss while he reforms. Mm-hmm. But very quickly, it's evident that the position is exposed. And then the Ohio Battery gets, terminated. We'll use a different word this time. And so it's prudent to fall back to the side of Cerebral Field, which is just an excellent position. I mean, the Confederates use it very well on April 7th as well. You know,
Yeah, it's I've always followed the 17th Kentucky. That's kind of a local regiment that I just love getting into those guys. So
oh
following,
yeah,
their through that area, yeah, and how they're on the other side of the road, eventually, and fighting up over in there too. It's um, just they're just one of those fascinating stories. There's one of the diaries, Sam Cox, that it's funny, at the early parts of the war here, he's writing a lot, especially
yes,
in 1862, and then he just quits through 1863, and he picks it back up in Atlanta campaign, and then it turns into those one sentence entries. It's like, man, where is all this storytelling and emotion that he had earlier?
yeah. I
Uh,
love the fact you mentioned about Cox. That when I found that's an excellent diary.
mhm.
It's one of my favorite diaries
Yeah,
that I've used because also a lot of times diaries are just those like rain today.
yeah, I've seen a lot of it.
Yeah, no, but I mean, like that one's a really, really good one. I'm pulling up something right now because I think I actually might have had an ancestor in the 17th Kentucky.
Oh,
I'm just checking this real quick though. Okay.
yeah,
All right. Uh-oh. Oh, SpaghettiOs. Looks like I might have. I got to pull this up, man. Since you're
I mean,
interested in.
yeah. So while you're looking that up, I don't even remember in the diary where he's talking about helping Captain Morton get back towards the landing, who's been, mortally wounded there. Um, his gravestone is actually, I live in Ohio County, which is where most of the regiment's from. Um, in Hartford's there's a small little cemetery in Hartford, and they've got his headstone there. It's not marked with anything spectacular though, and
Oh,
he actually shares the headstone with uh, names. I can't remember the name right now. I have to look it up. The colonel of the 26th Kentucky um, who is the colonel at Nashville. What was his dang name? And I can't.
well, 26 Kentucky. Were they at Shiloh by any chance?
Yes, they were with Buell's armies. 26. Yeah, Cicero Maxwell. That he
Oh
they
yeah,
share.
yeah. Yeah. Cicero Maxwell. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, they share a headstone. It's like one of those obelisk ones, and Morton's name's on one side and Maxwell's name's on the other.
Uh-oh.
And it's really interesting. Like, it's the GAR camp was down here was named after Morton. Um,
Okay.
got one of the ribbons there that they had that had Camp Morton on there, or Morton Camp. And so I've always wondered why Maxwell wasn't buried by his wife, 'cause his wife dies in 64, and then he dies uh shortly after Nashville, after that wound he got there. So I've always wondered why they had it like that. I'm not sure really, exactly how they're buried, but
I'd have
um
to see it myself. I do cemetery tours around here, so I've got some
mhm,
knowledge of that stuff, but I have to see a picture of it. By the way, I said uh-oh because 26 Kentucky is under William S. Smith.
mhm,
Um,
yeah.
yeah, you read his report for Shiloh?
I tried to make sense of it, but it's
Uh, dude, like yeah, he starts like insulting people in the report.
yeah, it's
And oh yeah, no, I like then I found he wrote a post-war account of the 14th Wisconsin where he says like, yeah, they just disappeared. I didn't see them. I'm like, well, yeah,
is he the
because you're in
one
the
that
other.
talks about in the third person too?
He kind of does, yeah.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah, there's talking about stabbing someone in the chest, and he just
brilliant. Look, brilliant engineer. By the way, I found out William F. Smith is important in skyscrapers. He's one of those important guys in developing skyscrapers and in bridge construction. I mean, he's considered one of the great engineers of the time, but
mhm.
not not the best in the battlefield. Although he was very brave. Several accounts mention like him being at the front with the men. They liked that about him. But man, he's got a really caustic official report.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember because I got some ancestors in the 26. Both of them were there were two brothers. Both of them were killed on the 7th. And
Oh no.
I'm assuming it's when they were hitting over there close to the Washington artillery coming through that area. But yeah, I've always been trying to figure out, okay, where exactly you get all those regiments, they start bumbling up in there. And it's like one regiment moves in front of another, and then the wing gets in front of the other one again, and it's super confusing on who is where. So Which is why I'm glad that you're doing this and taking such a deep look at the the tactical level and where all these regiments are at and what they're doing.
I want to say yes, yeah, and that's the thing too. For April 7th, I've got about as accurate a picture as I think anybody can
Mhm.
put together.
Yeah, I'm glad for that. Because April 7th, I mean, that's when more you look at it, I mean, it was obviously just as important as the 6th. If
Yeah,
not as intense, just as intense.
it's also a real headache, putting
Hmm.
it together. And one of the arguments I'm going to make in the book, like one of them is about how important Buell is.
Hmm.
Another one is that Grant's last line is not impregnable. It's just the sun is setting. When I say that, though, people are like, "What about the terrain?" I'm like, "Not the terrain at Dill Branch, the terrain away from Dill Branch.
Hmm.
There's a gap in the line." And also keep this in mind: the federal lines are thin. But here's what people don't know: several of Grant's batteries report they run out of ammunition at the end.
Ooh.
And
So,
remember, a lot of Grant's batteries don't go into action on April 7th.
hmm.
And there was a whole ammunition screw up, and it's been blamed on Grant because he sent his ammunition guy, the quartermaster, I guess, to give the first message to Lew Wallace.
That's right. Yeah.
And by the way, that guy, Grant, does not commend him in his report, and he practically disappears after that.
Hmm.
We don't know what happens to this guy. And I'm saying that some conspiracy is like, yeah, Grant had him rubbed out. No, he's just one of these figures who's very important in this controversy, and we don't actually have. So far, we have not found it what his opinion was or his thoughts. They're just not there. You know,
Hmm.
kind of like what Captain Myers, the 13th Ohio Battery. We don't have any letters. We don't have a letter in the newspaper or anything. I don't know what his take was on things. We don't have it.
Yeah.
If it's there, it's lost. And some of the newspapers where those 13th Ohio is from, I looked at a bunch of them, and like the one that was most likely to have something's missing issues. So, but one of the ones I make a case for is that the Confederates actually could have won April 7th. I'm not saying they had a great chance, though, but here's what I'm saying. The Federal Army attacking, Buell's Army of the Ohio, people go, they are not fresh.
No, they're not.
They are not.
Right.
They did one hell of a forced march to get there.
Yeah.
Then they got there. One of them said, we ate air in the morning. They have no food. They had no tents. This leads to sickness in the army afterwards because they have no tents. So they're exposed to rain post Shiloh. So in the middle of Shiloh, I mean, there's so many accounts of guys being like, yeah, I just had to like stand up and just take the rain all night.
Mm-hmm.
And, the Army of Ohio, as you're getting around 2 p.m., their men just start collapsing from exhaustion. So this is not a fresh army.
Mm-hmm.
As far as Grant, he's got Lew Wallace, but his other divisions were pretty thoroughly chewed up. They don't field a lot of men. Now, they do field men. They will see action. They will be important in the victory. I'm not going like, Buell, one of the worst things Buell says, he equates into stragglers at one point, and I'm like, well, okay, whatever, dude. I mean, but my point is that, Grant's army is not in great condition. And the Confederates, what if they just held the line? Because remember, the morning of April 7th, they go in fiery.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, we got this. We whipped you the other day, we'll whip you again. They go in with high morale. I think the reason the Confederates lose on April 7th, a lot of it has to do with Buell and Grant launching a counterattack and all the rest. But another part is that Beauregard's initial reaction is to attack.
Mm-hmm.
And then to make it worse, the Confederate lines really unravel when Bragg orders a series of attacks with Cleburne's brigade, Anderson's brigade, and part of Trabou's brigade. And when those attacks fail, that's when the lines really start falling apart. And also Hardee, Buell's not alone, Bragg's not alone. Hardee launches counterattacks at Cerebral Field. See the 2nd Texas get, shredded.
Mm-hmm.
I think if the Confederates had just stayed on the defensive, I'm not saying they would have won. I'm not saying that, but I think they had a fighter. I think they had a puncher's chance, I guess, as you say.
Mm-hmm.
And keeping in mind too, them holding the field really wasn't part of the plan per se. I mean, there was a hope of destroying Grant's army like Alderson and Johnston wanted to, but Beauregard would later on say that he considered Shiloh a success in terms of getting supplies, and he's right. They're exchanging their cannon for better cannon.
Mm-hmm.
They're leaving with, like wagons full of weapons, right? So I think like if they just hold their position on April 7th, the Federals, if they don't break the line, the Confederates then can retreat orderly and say, we took you in surprise in your camp. We beat you on that day. We held you off the other one, and we stole everything we could out of your camp.
Yeah.
The Confederates can then stay with a true straight face. We won the battle. So I think they have a puncher's chance on April 7th.
Do you think their positioning could have been better?
No, because here's what the problem is that they want to fall back to where the tents are.
Mm-hmm.
So the men have somewhere to sleep. Understandable too, because they didn't bring tents with them, of course. Those men have been sleeping out in the outdoors on the march to Shiloh. So you got to fall back to the camps, man. They got tents, they got food, right? You got those great stories, those Confederates on April 7th going into battle with cheese wedges on the bayonets, So, and also you want to get away from the gunboats.
Mm-hmm.
And that's another thing I make a case for too. I think the gunboats are more important than this being given credit. Now, I say more important. People don't denigrate them and say, oh, the gunboats didn't matter. I think the gunboats are more important than I've seen in most accounts, because what I see with the gunboats is, for one thing, the Confederates, both Johnston and Beauregard in playing it, took the gunboats into account. They want their men out of range of the gunboats. And also, yes, the gunboats don't really affect the Confederates near Tennessee River, with Trabou's brigade and I think it was Statham's brigade forming up. They affect the men to the west of them. The Confederates to the west of them, Polk's men, Gibson's brigade, I think it's around there too. They talk about the cannonballs are falling around them and it's causing disorganization. And sure, the cannonballs aren't killing a lot of men, but the men they kill die horribly.
Yeah.
They're seeing men just getting blown to pieces right in front of them. That does delay the Confederates in that area from forming up properly to attack. I do think the gunboats help. The gunboats also, by the way, Claiborne, whose brigade was doing very well on the afternoon of April 6th, he had to stop his attack when the gunboats start firing. So I do place a high premium what the gunboats contributed to the battle.
Yeah.
They're very important. Anyways, but but once again, it depends on where you were. If you were closer to the river, they really didn't matter that much. It's further west where they matter.
Yeah.
And also, God, you could imagine just those heavy cannons, like everybody talks about the booming of them too, the psychological effect it's going to have. You're talking about guys who have never heard anything that loud in their lives.
Yeah. Yeah.
Think about how relatively quiet it is just being a farm boy, and then you're around this steamboat monstrosities just firing giant cannonballs at you, and you're seeing a guy get blasted to pieces,
Yeah.
So yeah, no, that's a few of the thoughts I have on that one.
Yeah.
Sean, where are you in terms of how soon can we, the eager audience, expect to see this tactical treatise of Shiloh?
I maybe sometime next year.
Oh, okay.
I wouldn't know. What I'm doing is I'm organizing the last notes I've compiled, and then I start plugging them into the narrative. I've already written a book, like a second draft of it, but I'm going to put more research that I found and then start polishing the narrative. And that's what I'm going to be doing over the summer, because summer in New Orleans is like winter in Minnesota. You stay indoors.
Yeah.
You stay indoors and wait for it to end.
That's fair. Is this a single volume or a multi-volume work?
I'm going to do a multi-volume work on it. And
there we go. That's why it's open here.
Yeah, no, I can do. I want to talk to Ted Savis about it.
Sure.
How many they'd want? Optimally, I'd do 3 volumes.
Oh man.
I've got
No, I mean, that's one of the reasons this has been I could have put this book out earlier, but I've just been obsessive. And also part of the reason that made it that way was I'm working with Brad Gottfried on maps of Shiloh. We've already made the first draft of the maps. We're just editing them right now, which reminds me, when this is done, I got to get one of the maps ready and send it off to him, because I've got a little late on that because it was somebody's birthday Tuesday. And I was like, all right, sure, I'll have a drink, but, so maps of Shiloh, the text, it needs to be cleaned up, but the text has been written. The maps have actually been done. We just need to edit them and finalize the maps. So I'm hoping that you'll be getting something next year or year after next. And then that's the thing is that once they start coming out, there's gonna be a bunch of them. So maybe Savas wants only a 1 volume on Shiloh. If that's the case, I can make that happen. And then what I might do is, I'm a big movie buff. Maybe I'll just do a director's cut and, you know, be like, all right, so you got the published Shiloh. Here's my 3-volume director's cut for all you fanatics out there, you know. Like I got I found out the movie Das Boot, you know, where there's so many different cuts of the movie. And because originally it was a TV miniseries, so there's like a 5-hour plus cut. So I went ahead and bought the DVD for it to watch it sometime. And you got to think about that. It's like, look, this is only for you Das Boot fanatics out there, you know. So there'd be a 1 volume for, hey man, you want to have a Shiloh book? Here you go. And if that's what they want, that's fine. I'll do the director's cut for the other one.
Good extended edition.
Yeah.
People are gonna be treating that
Shiloh. I think I might call it Shiloh Fanatic Edition.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, hey, we have 3 volumes on Chickamauga. I'm sure Uncle Ted can find his way to have 2 or 3.
But
Shiloh.
Yeah, we'll see, man. That gives me definitely some hope. I remember talking to Powell about that. I'm pretty chummy with him, and Powell was like, he kind of just asked, like, could he do it? And he said, like, yeah. And Powell was like, really? Okay. You're not gonna say no, right? And then doing the Atlanta campaign stuff is gonna be like 5 volumes, I think.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
And then potential. Well, I can't give that away. I don't know for sure, but there'll be a Maps book or books. So
that'd be fantastic. That'd be amazing. You know, because I love the Maps series.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think having read a bunch of them right now, my favorite is Wilderness.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my favorite's still Chickamauga. It's so cleared up any confusion for me.
Oh yeah, no, that'd be my second favorite.
Yeah,
Wilderness, the narrative's really good, and also just I think because the Wilderness is the battle most like Shiloh with the most things you got to go like, oh, we got to guess here. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I know you got that in Chickamauga too, but Wilderness, I mean, you know, Wilderness is like jungle. Well, it's like the closest Civil War gets to jungle combat. So I'm really impressed with what he did in the Wilderness book.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the Wilderness and Chickamauga. I mean, they're all good. You know, the Fredericksburg one's excellent too. You know, I got. I'm going to return to do maps. I'm going to look at maps of Antietam again because I managed to score a copy and whatnot. And anyway, so yeah, amazing series. So all of these I'm hoping will come out within the next 2 to 3 years, but nothing will come out this year.
All right.
Okay. Well, I guess
except for articles. That's one thing I am to keep my name out there and everything. So I did an article on Buell at Shiloh. That's in North and South from about a year ago. Well, not about a year, like last summer. And then I submitted one on the 13th Ohio Battery. I'm writing one that's kind of based on the presentation I did for the American Civil War Symposium last year, which is about Shiloh and New Orleans, because roughly 3,000 soldiers at Shiloh are New Orleans residents. I think that's the most of any battle in the Civil War. And Shiloh had an effect on the way that the city dealt with the war and the way the city remembered the Civil War afterwards. And so doing a little bit of memory studies there. And also because the fact that Johnston was buried in New Orleans at first.
Right. Yeah.
And there was a lot of controversy with that because what's his name? Butler took down the faceplate on the tomb, so the coffin rotted down. Yeah. I know Butler. People are having a love fest for him, and I'm not going with the Spoons Beast Butler routine. But I also want to tell people there's a reason a lot of people didn't like this guy.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, he could be a real jerk, but I want to say Richard Taylor said about Butler. He said something like he was a bad general, but when it came to insults, he was a master. Totally paraphrasing. He said something about he said something where he equated him to some medieval knight. So you know, I'm not getting into that. But anyways, and then the Petersburg stuff, the one on the Jerusalem Plank Road and the crater comes out next month, and the third volume's already submitted, but I'm gonna do some polishing up on it and resubmit it, and then still doing volume 4 and 5. And American Civil War also have a collaboration effort on Mobile.
Cool.
Also, Tullahoma book, which is a book I was writing, and then I found out Powell was already writing about Tullahoma. So then I said, "Oh, it's already in good hands. I need to step away. I'll just do the Emergent Civil War. I'll do the Emergent Civil War one, and doing one on Port Hudson, which is probably the last of these. But Port Hudson's a campaign that really fascinates me, and I think when I'm done with all the Shiloh stuff, whenever that happens, I'll either do the Grant and the politics of command, because I think Grant's actually a master of Army politics, or not a master. He's a person who learns how to be good at it. And you see that happening during the war. My main one being that, if you notice, at Fort Donelson, Grant makes sure he's friends with all of Halleck's friends. Think about it. Look at it, man.
Yeah.
He becomes chummy with everybody Halleck likes. Who Halleck doesn't like, he puts distance on.
Yep.
Very sharp. Very sharp. Now, Grant, he learns much sharper at politics. You don't become president of the United States being a dunce at politics.
That's right.
And the other one too is, or if not that, a military biography of Nathaniel Banks.
Sweet.
Yeah, that'd be really cool.
Because he's so fascinating too. And one thing he has, I think, the most bizarre command in the Civil War in many ways, because he's sent to Louisiana. And I've heard accounts like, oh, they shuffle him out of Virginia. I'm like, no, that's a promotion. He's being promoted. He's being given 19th Corps, the largest corps in the Union Army at that time.
Yeah.
I mean, in terms of like field force, I think it's the largest corps. Maybe 14th, but no, not 14th, because 14th gets divided up between the 20th and 21st. No, he's given a massive corps. He's given an important job in taking Port Hudson. He's told to set up a Reconstruction government, which that's very much Lincoln's, very, very important to Lincoln. And he's also told by Lincoln and Halleck, hey, if you run to Grant, you're in charge. You're in charge.
Turn that narrative on its head. Woohoo!
Well, think about this they tried to remove Grant after Chickasaw Bayou.
Yeah.
And then they decided, no, we'll stick with him, and then, but Halleck sends a message to Banks reminding him, like, hey, when you're running to Grant, you're in charge. So think about this. If Banks did take Port Hudson right away, he goes to Vicksburg, he takes the credit. And also, Vicksburg's the most photographed battle of the war. Well, at least the siege part is. It's got something like 60, 70 photographs. They just put out a photographic history of it. We have so many images. And you look at the Harper's Weekly and all the things, they're constantly making images of Banks's campaigns in Louisiana. The reason is because everybody expects him to become president after Lincoln. He's being groomed to win major victories and then become president. And he's being given this military political assignment, an assignment that is explicitly political, not implicitly. I mean, he has one of the most interesting command arrangement in the Civil War, I would say. And there's just so much that can be done there, and makes me sad that in that regard I'm not around Mark Summers as much, because that was the guy I was with in Kentucky, But last time I sent emails with him, I said, I'm going to do Banks. And he was like, ooh, wow, exciting, because he's all about Gilded Age politics. so I'm just like, I don't know, just that one excites me. I think I'll do Banks over the Grant. The Grant politics one's interesting, but man, Banks, I don't know, there's just so much there. And yeah, once again, what if Banks is really a man who was on the edge of becoming one of the most famous Americans ever of his age. I mean, he's already notable in his time, but I mean, what if he did take Port Hudson? He'd go to Vicksburg and take command and take the credit. And the newspapers would trumpet him, and so would Lincoln, because Banks and Lincoln, that's the last thing to note about this. Politically, they agree on everything. Banks is just Lincoln, except he's handsome.
That's even debatable.
Yeah. Although look, Lincoln's a better writer and speaker, though.
Oh, absolutely.
But you got to remember though, like Lincoln, I mean, when he was young, women used to laugh at him. Think about how long it took for him to get married. You know what I mean? Like, and I remember Lincoln's our only president who was in a gang. Remember that? No, as a young man, when he was, in Illinois, he joins like a riverfront gang and they're wrestling and stuff. He joins the local toughs, and they're like his guards at his in his early campaigning.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's more interesting than that rail splitter stuff. Besides, he hated splitting rails.
That's right. That was work.
Yeah. That's right. His dad. That's right. That's why his dad was pissed at him.
All right,
So-
we're definitely going to need to do a part 2 with Sean. There's no doubt
Oh,
about
sure
it.
thing, man.
Sure.
Actually, wait, before you go, that reminds me, you know, his dad's like, I want to say, I know we got to go, but his dad's like, remember the Bill Hicks, there's a Bill Hicks joke where he's talking about, he's like, I was eating in the Waffle Shack. And by the way, I love Waffle House, but you know, he's like, eating in the Waffle Shack and he's reading a book and he says, the waitress comes up and goes, what you reading for? And every time I hear that, I'm like, is that what Lincoln's dad said to him?
I
What
bet
you reading
so.
for?
How's that ever going to help you?
Get out there and get to work.
Yeah.
What you reading for? Anyway, yeah, anytime,
Oh.
guys. You know, anytime.
Yeah. We'll definitely have you back on here soon.
Oh,
And
yeah.
hopefully not next episode won't be cursed.
Yeah.
as
God, no, I know this one took a while to set up, but like I told you guys back in January, I was like, don't worry, I'll see it through, man. I know it can be hard to arrange things, but you know, I'm not giving up.
Yeah.
Besides, I love the
it
work you
works.
guys do with the blog. I check it once a week.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, no,
Yes,
check it.
updates. We
No,
got a
check it
lot of
once a
stuff
week,
in
man.
drafts.
I read just about every post, you know.
Awesome. Awesome.
Excellent. Good to hear. Good to hear. Well, Sean, it's been a real pleasure. We really appreciate the time and the energy of the stories. That's I hope our listeners are enjoying this as much as we have tonight. That's for sure.
I think we do.
And we're definitely going to do part 2. We are. I can't speak for Derek. Actually, I can because I know enough. But we are stoked for the Shiloh stuff. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
I think Mr. Smith, Professor Smith, did a hell of a job with his Shiloh book,
Oh,
particularly
thanks, sir.
bringing some focus to the 7th. But
Yes.
there's people like us who are just tactical geeks, and we just
want
can't
more.
get to that. And we're super looking forward to that.
Oh, you know, as a very last thing to say, you know, reading all the Shiloh books, I'm not just saying this facetiously because, you know, we've all read Drek, but Cunningham, Smith, Sword, and Daniel are all good. They all contribute something, you know.
Yeah.
My personal favorite would be Daniel, but that's also one of the very first books I ever got, Civil War books, you know. And I just love Daniel's style. But all of those are just fantastic books. And like, for instance, Sword, I wasn't a fan of Embrace an Angry Wind, which became Last Hurrah of the Confederacy. That book's got problems. I mean, there's parts I like about it, but that book's got problems. So I go into Shiloh Bloody April a bit negative about it, and then I'm reading, I'm like, no, this is an excellent account.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yep.
So, yeah, there's one thing I'd like to say is, like, you know, like the 4 major Shiloh works, all of them are good. They're all right there to the left of me, you know. I reference them all the time, you know. So yeah, but yeah, no, this one's definitely the director's cut is gonna be for the tactical geeks.
We look forward to it. All right, with that, Derek, we'll let you sign us off.
All right. So thank you all for listening, and we'll catch you hopefully much sooner than our last episode. Get them with summer and spring coming along. I think that opens up sometime. Well, maybe we'll see. We got sports seasons coming up for the kids too, so we'll see how that happens. But yeah, we'll looking forward to having everybody listen again soon, and definitely have Sean back on, and we got some other guests lined up, and we're really excited to be able to get to those. So thank you all for listening, and we'll catch you soon.